Well, you should listen to the zip code plays because they're going to be beautifully performed. The sound will be amazing. I already know that in advance, and the stories are good. And if you have any interest whatsoever in, in humanity and human nature or in theater, that's exactly why you would listen to the zip code plays. But the more important fun thing is, again, that you get to see little corners of Los Angeles that you might not see on a normal day. That, a lot of people who are longtime Los Angeles residents or even native Angelinos don't get to all of the little corners of this city. The city is geographically huge and spread out. And, you could live here for 10, 15, or 20 years before you realize, oh my gosh, there's this little neighborhood that's tucked here between, Eagle Rock and Echo Park. And I never even saw this before. And it's, it's an absolutely fascinating city where from block to block or, from half mile to half mile, you're going to be in a completely different temperature zone and a totally different architectural zone. It's absolutely fascinating. And the zip code plays give you an opportunity to not have to drive and sit in heavy traffic and get to see these neighborhoods and see the people in them. Hi, I'm Paula Cizmar. I'm one of the writers of the Zip Code Plays, Season 2, from Antaeus Theatre. If you want to know more about the plays that we're doing, and if you want to know more about Antaeus, please go to their website and learn about the plays and how you can watch them. They're all free. And you can watch this video to learn a little bit more about the VIG, which is from Inglewood 90303. Well, the zip code plays were announced to Playwrights Lab members as an opportunity to explore various neighborhoods of Los Angeles and, check out what's going on in some of the far reaches of LA and some of the hidden neighborhoods. So we were all asked to pitch a story if we were interested in participating. And I pitched the Inglewood idea to Antaeus, and fortunately, I was selected. And the idea I think is to look at this city in terms of what it actually is, which is this is not a single monolithic city with one culture, and certainly not with one ethnic group or one racial group or even one geographical terrain. This is a very, very different kind of a place, and it's very exciting in that regard. So I was looking at some of the neighborhoods that I really like and some of the neighborhoods that don't get visited often or talked about often. For the first iteration, I think I pitched a story in East LA. That one did not get selected. And then this time around, I remembered how much I loved Inglewood and the old vestiges of Hollywood Park. So I pitched that one this time and fortunately, got to be one of the people writing one of the zip code plays. The idea for the VIG, which is my zip code play for Inglewood 90303, came from a lot of different sources. And that's pretty much true of the way I work in general. It's generally not one idea that occurs to me. It usually becomes a kind of confluence of multiple ideas. So I had been thinking about a story for a long time about, uh, based on my uncle who ran away when he was like 16 years old from home and eventually kind of became a racetrack tout. And then I was also thinking about Inglewood itself and the area near the airport and again, the far reaches of Los Angeles. And then I was also thinking about the time when my husband was teaching at the UCLA paramedic school, which at the time was in Inglewood. And since I teach at USC, sometimes I would drop him off at Inglewood before I would go off to teach at USC. And it was usually too early to go to teach my classes. So I would grab a Starbucks and I would sit in the parking lot behind the Target on Century Boulevard, where you could overlook the Hollywood Park racetrack and you could actually watch the exercise riders in the morning. So it was always fascinating to me. It's usually very early in the morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock. And the exercise riders at that time were usually just finishing up their rides. And to watch them, you know, run these magnificent animals around that track, not during a racing time, but just at the time that they were working out and, having the horses experience um, this place and, getting to, you know, run their legs off. It was just really just kind of magical to me to just be sitting there with my cup of coffee early in the morning and watching this activity. So, um, when the zip code plays were announced as an opportunity for Playwrights Lab members, all of these ideas just started to come together in my head. It was like, well, suppose we have a character who works at the track, or no, I don't really want to do that. Suppose we have a character who is looking for someone who works at the track. And then I thought of my uncle, and then I thought of the days that I used to watch the exercise riders at the track, and it all just kind of coalesced. And on top of that became this question of, why do people come to Los Angeles in the first place? Why do they come to California? We usually come from other places. I know there are a lot of native Angelinos. I'm not one of them. I'm an adoptee. Um, but, it's very, very much my home. I can't imagine being anything but a Californian now. And so the question becomes, why do people come from other places and make their home here? And why is it such a place, you know, where so many people are accepted and rub elbows with each other? And would I really want to live in a place that wasn't as diverse anymore? And so I started to think about, what it would be like to be this young woman who comes from a place that's totally alien from LA, who comes in search of her uncle who has, made a place there. So that's essentially what the story is about. It's a young woman whose mother has just died, who comes to Hollywood Park to try to find this long lost uncle who has been secretly supporting the family or sending her mother money, but has not been in contact with his family for a very long time. So I also started to look at, what it's like to be the outcast of a family and the one who doesn't fit in and the one who feels a certain amount of shame and doesn't want to be discovered by his family. So um, it's a difficult decision for Geo, one of the main characters, to make, to accept his past and to welcome his niece into his life. And in fact, that is the struggle of the play. Well, the team for the zip code plays is just pretty amazing. I mean, Antaeus actors, as you know, are just really wonderful. Absolutely incredible professionals. And the designer of all of this sound insanity is Jeff Gardner, who is, to me, a genius. So he is the one who's in charge of uh, the sound design, creating all of the sound effects, doing all the Foley work, making sure that the actors all sound good. And then I also worked with an amazing director, Bernadette Speaks, who I adore, and three really incredible actors. And I'm really, really happy to say that it's, a diverse cast and a diverse team, because I really wanted it to reflect the faces of Los Angeles. So, I'm a white playwright, but I didn't want to write a play that was just all white people, because that's not the way we live in LA. We live in a diverse world. So the cast reflects that, the team reflects that. And the wonderful thing about it is, as I started to think about this play, and I started to think about what could you do in a sound only environment, and what could you do that would be possible in an audio play that you actually couldn't do on stage. And I started to think, well, horses. You can hear the sound of horses. We can't really do this play on stage because you would miss the horses. You wouldn't, you would have to have a character who's miming riding the horses, or a character who's miming, grooming the horses. But in an audio play, Jeff can create the sounds of the horses running. He can create the sound of the horses snorting. He can create the sound of, the horses being, washed down and groomed. So it just became really exciting to me to kind of write in this fourth character, the horse who we hear only as a sound effect. So that was part of the fun. But it was just a really, really wonderful experience. I collaborated a lot with the artistic directors on rewrites. They gave great notes. Um, I was able to be at rehearsal and hear the actors and hear their questions. And it's wonderful in play development when you can work with another group of people who are creative and imaginative in their own right, and they can actually contribute to the development of the play. So I had a really wonderful time. I think what I would like the audience to get from this play is a sense of melancholy for a certain kind of loss, but also a sense of hope for how people can make connections. I should say that one of the things that gets addressed in the VIG is the fact that Hollywood Park doesn't exist anymore. I set the play 2 weeks before Hollywood Park was about to close down in December 2013. And as you know, that entire area is being developed, is being turned into a stadium and condos and restaurants. And that's something I think we have to think about, not only in Los Angeles, but in many of our cities. And that is, what happens when we try to um, create a new place. It's not that I'm totally against urban development, but unfortunately, that usually leads to gentrification. And so we might get something shiny and new in its place, but what happens to the people who are living there? So that's one of the things I wanted the audience to think about when this play was over. Um, what's going to happen to these people? Where is everybody going to go who's now been displaced? Because the exercise writer and the uncle, who also works at the track, are not going to have their jobs. They're going to have to move on and find a new life somewhere else. And the young woman who has come out to Los Angeles to look for a new life is not going to be able to find it there because this place is closing. So what are the trade-offs of so-called having progress and then displacing the people who've lived someplace for years and years? And then what about the loss of relationships, and what kind of loss is there when we leave our families behind? So all of those questions I think are, you know, one of the things that I was hoping the audience would think about when this play is over. And those are kind of melancholic and regretful things. But I also wanted them to leave with a sense that new connections have been made, and that people are very resilient and will just keep moving on and going forward. So I'm kind of hoping for a complicated response, and also I'm hoping that people will have some fun. As I said, you get to imagine that you're at a racetrack and you're hearing the horses running, and with any luck, you'll feel as if you're riding the horse yourself. One of the things about the zip code plays is that they're just fun. You know, it's not a burden. I mean, I am largely guilty about writing some plays that are intense and heavy and bleak. Um, and the good news is the zip code plays are not that. They're fun. They're short. Um, you can go to many different locations and hear different voices in a not particularly long time. You can spread them out. You can listen one at a time, or listen to all of them in a great big, clump. But they're fun, and they're different, and each voice is very, very different. Each of the playwrights selected write completely and totally differently from the others, and have taken on topics that are completely and totally different. So it's this wonderful wide array of not only writing voices, but also of reflections of the stories of the people of this community. So, and it's fun. It's not intense. It's not heavy. This, for a change, is not me in a bleak mode, and the other playwrights also have made sure that the experience is insightful but fun. If you enjoyed this conversation about the zip code plays and Antaeus Theater, please go to their website and learn about the plays and how you can download them. They're all free. And also go on the walking tour. It's fun. I think you'll see a lot about the city of Los Angeles that you didn't actually know. So I do hope you have fun and enjoy it.